You're sick of copy-pasting the same meta deck every single season. You've tried building your own deck, it flops, and you crawl back to the meta. Well, today, that changes. In this video, we'll walk you through the key steps, the exact framework you need to build a deck that wins over and over again. Step 1. Find your playstyle. Before you even think about win conditions or support cards, you need to figure out your playstyle. That is the foundation of your deck. Some players are aggressive. They love spamming cards at the bridge, cycling fast and keeping pressure non-stop. Think Hog Rider plus Firecracker at the bridge. High risk, high reward. Others are defensive. They wait, build up value, and then punish mistakes with massive counter pushes. These players win in overtime, outlasting opponents. It's patient, and honestly, it's hard. And then there's what I'll call the autopilot style. These decks lean on low-skill, high-value cards to do the heavy lifting. Elixir Golem, Royal Recruits, stuff like that. A lot of players don't want to admit they play this way, but if you embrace it, you will climb faster. Here's the key. Your deck should fit how you naturally play. Sure, pros can swap from Hog Cycle to Golem Beatdown overnight, but the rest of us, if you force yourself into a style that doesn't match your instincts, you'll lose more, get frustrated, and ditch the deck. So, how do you find your playstyle? Well, play a lot. Watch your own replays. Do you love fast pressure? You're aggressive. Do you wait for the perfect counter? You're defensive. Do you just kind of drop cards and hope for the best? Well, then you kind of know where you belong. Don't be afraid to tell me in the comments what kind of playstyle do you enjoy the most. I won't judge. I'm just curious. And trust me, once you've nailed your playstyle, building a good deck gets 10 times easier. Step 2. Pick your archetype. Now that you know your playstyle, it's time to pick your archetype. Archetypes are basically the families of Clash Royale decks, and almost every deck in the game fits into one of 7. Here's the truth, if you don't learn these archetypes inside and out, you'll get stuck at the same trophy range forever. First is Cycle. Fast decks like Hog 2.6, you keep up constant pressure and force mistakes. I highly recommend Hog 2.6 if you love aggressive gameplay. I've been playing it myself for years, and honestly, it's one of the best decks for having fun, making predictions, and pulling off insane defensive moves. For example, if you're up against a Mega Knight, the true skill lies in defending perfectly with Cannon, Musketeer, and Ice Golem, while distracting with Skeletons and Ice Spirit, sometimes even using Hog Rider on defense. If you're the type of player who loves adrenaline, this deck is for you. 2. Bridge spam. Think Bandit, Battle Ram, Royal Ghost. You hit fast and punish when your opponent is low on elixir. Bridge spam is especially effective if you really want to punish your opponent for a mistake. One slip up and their tower could be gone. If they overspend on offense, defend cheaply, then punish both lanes. It works like a charm. Here is the best P.E.K.K.A. bridge spam deck you can use. Make sure to use the evolved Baby Dragon first. It synergizes amazingly in this deck because you can pressure at the bridge and support your troops even faster, making it extremely difficult for your opponent to defend. Third, Control. Decks like Graveyard Poison or Miner Balloon. First, you defend, then you strike with counter pushes. Graveyard deck. This version is one of the best. You defend cheaply with Goblin Hut and Valkyrie, then push hard with Valkyrie and Graveyard. That combination becomes extremely difficult for your opponent to defend. It's definitely a strong deck, but an even better option for you might be Miner Balloon. With this deck, you wait for your opponent to overcommit on offense, defend cheaply with Musketeer, Ice Golem, and Skeletons, then counter push with Miner plus Balloon and Snowball. It works every time. Even if the balloon doesn't reach the tower, the Miner plus the Death Bomb will guarantee solid damage. The key here isn't always landing the balloon hit. It's constantly chipping away with Miner and bomb damage until that tower falls. Fourth, Siege. Expo and Mortar. You set up on your side and force your opponent to respond perfectly. Very high skill, very punishing. If you really like to annoy your opponents, this is currently the best Expo deck. A lot of people say Expo is a no-skill card, just drop the Expo at the bridge and defend, but honestly, I kinda disagree. In today's Clash Royale, with so many beatdown decks like Golem, Electro Giant, or Lava Hound running around, Expo is actually pretty tough to play. You need precise timing, smart predictions, and a really strong defense to offense transition. For example, setting up an Expo right after you've defended a heavy push can completely flip the game, but only if you've managed your elixir perfectly. One mistake, and you get steamrolled. That's why Expo players are some of the most patient and calculated in the game. If you enjoy testing your opponent's patience, forcing them to make awkward plays, and slowly chipping away at their tower while staying one step ahead, then this archetype is for you. Fifth, Beatdown. Golem, Electro Giant, Lava Hound. You stack Elixir, build huge pushes, and overwhelm. When it comes to Beatdown, this is one of the archetypes where I'd actually recommend using the Royal Chef Tower. Its pancake effect can level up your Golem, Lava Hound, or Electro Giant mid-push, and that single level up changes a ton of interactions in your favor. Suddenly defenses that would normally stop your push just don't cut it anymore. And here's the best Golem beatdown deck that you can run right now. The game plan is simple but powerful. Play defense first, survive your opponent's pressure, then build up a massive push behind your Golem. Once you stack support troops, it becomes almost impossible for your opponent to defend. If you're the type of player who enjoys holding the line on defense and then unleashing one unstoppable push that decides the entire game, well, Beatdown is absolutely for you. 6. Split Lane. Three Musketeers, well, back when they worked, or modern split push decks like Royal Hogs. One of the best options right now is Royal Hogs with Archer Queen. It's reliable, consistent, and really hard to stop when played well. But if you're feeling a bit spicy, you can switch things up with Royal Recruits and Ram Rider, a split lane setup that works amazingly well when you want to pressure both sides of the arena. One quick warning though, don't bother with Three Musketeer decks. They've been weak ever since heal was removed from the game, and they just don't hold up in today's meta. And finally, number 7, Bait. Bait decks are all about forcing your opponent to spend their small spell in the wrong place. Think log bait. You place Princess or Goblin Gang, and eventually they run out of answers. Once that happens, you punish with your Goblin Barrel. The key step here is simple. Have multiple cards that demand the same counter. If your deck has at least 2 log bait cards, your opponent's defensive wall will eventually collapse. And that's right when you snowball a win. The meta is always shifting. What's broken today could be garbage next season, but here's the key. If you pick an archetype that matches your natural playstyle, you will always have a deck that feels right. Every deck I've shown here works, you just need to know when and how to swap out certain cards. For example, if the meta is flooded by Evolved Baby Dragons and your Royal Hogs plus Archer Queen deck keeps getting destroyed, simply switch Earthquake for Lightning. Suddenly you've got a clean counter and your deck feels strong again. That's the real secret. Identify the cards you struggle with the most, then adjust your deck to cover those weaknesses. Once you learn to tweak like that, oh boy, you are going straight to the moon. Now we're getting to the most important key steps of this entire video. Miss this and your deck will never work the way you want to. Step 3. Pick your win condition. So I talk about this a lot, but what exactly is a win condition? It's a card in your deck you can rely on to deal tower damage consistently. Some win conditions lock onto the tower directly, like Royal Giant or Hog Rider, unless they're distracted. Others can be placed right on top of the tower, like Miner, Goblin Barrel, or Graveyard. This is the backbone of your deck. Every single push you make should revolve around creating opportunities for your win condition to connect with the tower. Now, here is a key rule. Keep your average elixir cost in check. For most decks, you want to stay between 2.6 and 3.8. Of course, heavy beatdown decks will go higher, but in general, lighter decks give you more chances to use your win condition throughout the match. So what about a secondary win condition? Ask yourself, do you trust your main one? If you're running Royal Giant, yes, you can build your whole game plan around him. But if you're running something weaker, say a Miner, you probably need backup. That's why Miner often pairs well with Mortar, Wall Breakers, or Balloon. These cards give you consistent pressure, so you're not relying on Miner chip damage alone. Here's another way to test your choice. You can run it through the archetype filter. Beatdown win conditions like Golem or Lava Hound thrive when you stack support troops into one unstoppable push. Cycle win conditions like Hog Rider shine when you get them on the tower as often as possible, keeping up some relentless pressure. Bridge spam win conditions, Ram Rider or Battle Ram, break through by punishing overcommitments and forcing your opponent to split their defense. Bait win conditions like Goblin Barrel or Wall Breakers succeed by forcing out your opponent's spell on one card and punishing with the other. For example, if you're building around Royal Giant, you don't want to force it into a beatdown deck. You'll have more success cycling him with support so you can pressure over and over. On the flip side, a Goblin Barrel works best in a bait archetype where you can pair it with Wall Breakers to overwhelm their small spell. The takeaway, pick one clear win condition, then make sure your deck actually supports it. Without that, no amount of fancy card choices will save you. And hey, if this helped, please make sure to subscribe. I've got way more key steps coming up that'll take your decks to the next level. Step number 4. Pick your support troops. Once you've chosen your archetype and win condition, it is time to add your support troops. These are cards that form the core of your defense, and also back up your win condition on offense. Certain supports synergize much better with certain win conditions, so you gotta think this through in playtest. Firecracker plus Hog works great because she snipes defending troops and buildings, but Firecracker is terrible with Graveyard. She gives your opponent a free King Tower activation, and if you play Graveyard, you know that the game's basically over. Support cards also synergize with each other. Fisherman plus Royal Giant is a classic because RG attacks from the bridge, Fisherman pulls defenders to your side so your tower helps clean up. Take it a step further with Fisherman plus Hunter. The Fisherman pulls, the Hunter blasts point blank, and your RG suddenly has a clear path. You don't have to discover every combo yourself. If you want to save some time, go to royaleapi.com, look up your win condition, and scroll through the most popular decks that include it. You'll see which support cards are commonly paired with it, and you can also check which counters your win condition usually struggles with. It is not the end-all be-all, but it is a great starting point. Beyond specific strategies, follow these general rules when picking supports. Have at least one splash unit. Swarms are everywhere, especially in lower ladder. A Valkyrie or Bowler can be essential. Have at least 2 air targeting cards. If you don't, Lava Hound or Balloon will steamroll you. One card can sometimes cover both roles. For example, the Evolved Wizard can count as both a splash unit and one of your air defenders. On the flip side, some archetypes like Fast Cycle might use something like Ice Spirit as splash coverage to speed up cycle. But the trade-off is you'll need to defend swarms much more carefully. At the end of the day, the exact picks matter less than covering the essentials. If you find you're struggling versus swarms or air, adjust your support slots until that weakness is fixed. Step 5. Choose your evolutions. One of the most important pieces of deck building in Clash Royale today. Evolutions are superpowered versions of regular cards. You unlock them after cycling the base card a certain number of times. When picking an evolution, you generally have 2 options. Win condition evolutions like Goblin Giant, Goblin Drill, or Mortar. These make your offense much stronger, but the risk is you'll sometimes be left with fewer evolved cards to defend. And support evolutions like Knight, Skeletons, or Wizard. These are more versatile. You can defend and support your pushes, but you do lose some offensive power. A versatile support evolution like Knight or Skeletons is much easier to plug into multiple archetypes, while a win condition evolution locks you into one playstyle for the long run. Later in the game, you'll unlock 2 evolution slots, and that opens up way more possibilities, but it also means you need to think about how your evolutions cycle together. For example, pairing a Goblin Drill evolution with a Bomber evolution works smoothly because they're both 2-cycle evolutions. But if you combine a Drill 2-cycle with a Wizard 1-cycle, it can be harder to line them up at the same time. Most of the time, this won't make or break your deck, but it is something experienced players consider when optimizing. The bottom line, pick evolutions that complement your win condition and cover your weaknesses. If you choose the wrong one, you'll constantly feel like your deck is missing something, but if you nail your evolution choices, you'll have a massive edge in every game. Step 6. Spells. Once you've locked in your evolutions, it's time to choose your spells. This is one of the easiest steps to understand, but it's also the easiest to get wrong. So here are the golden rules. Always run at least 2 spells, and at least one of them should be a small spell. Big spells are usually 4 elixir or more. Cards like Fireball, Poison, Rocket, Lightning, Earthquake, and even Void. These are essential for breaking through defenses and supporting your win condition in the late game. Poison shuts down Graveyard, Earthquake clears buildings so Hog Rider can connect, Lightning zaps Inferno Tower so Royal Giant breaks through. Big spell slots can be used for surprise picks like Freeze. Just because a spell isn't common in the meta doesn't mean it can't work, as long as it fits your deck's synergy. If you don't know what big spell to pick, you can't go wrong with Fireball or Poison. They're safe, versatile, and fit into almost every deck, except maybe some Golem or Electro Giant builds. Some spells are your catch-all tools: Log, Zap, Arrows, Barbarian Barrel, Snowball, and they often fill key defensive gaps. Cheap cycle decks usually prefer Log or Zap. Slightly heavier decks may lean on Arrows to cover swarms. Synergy always comes first. For example, Log is almost always stronger than Barbarian Barrel on paper, but in graveyard decks, the Barbarian from the barrel can tank for your graveyard, making it the better choice. In rare cases, a deck only works with one spell. That usually isn't ideal, but if you're going this route, your safest picks are Arrows or Void. Your spells should support your win condition and patch up your weaknesses. Don't just pick Fireball because it's strong or Zap because it's cheap. Make sure your choices fit your deck's game plan. Step 7. Add a champion. the highest rarity in Clash Royale and the only rarity that truly changes how the game is played. Champions are unique because they come with a special ability that can flip a match if timed right, you can only have one champion per deck, and they create a 3-card cycle. So here's what that means. When a champion is on the board, it skips its spot in the cycle, letting you get back to your win condition faster. That's why you'll often see players drop champions in the back, not just to build a push, but to keep them alive longer and cycle to Hog Riders, Drills, or Royal Giants more quickly. Champions aren't mandatory, but they are incredibly powerful. If you're building a serious deck, you should at least consider them. Best roles for champions are Cycle, Control, and Beatdown decks. Let's talk about why. So for Cycle decks, champions shine because the 3-card cycle lets you get to your win condition way faster. Think Skeleton King plus Graveyard or Golden Knight plus Drill. For Control decks, Skeleton King or Mighty Miner add tankiness and strong defensive counters. And finally, for Beatdown decks, Archer Queen and Golden Knight can turn a slow push into a deadly offensive wave. The key rule is to not just jam in a champion because they're strong. Make sure they actually fit your archetype. Archer Queen is incredible with Royal Hogs, but awkward in Golem decks. Mighty Miner works great with Drill, but doesn't add much to Lava Hound. If you pick the right champion, your deck feels unstoppable. Pick the wrong one, and you'll constantly struggle to make it work. Now you know how to build the perfect deck, but that's only half the battle. If you want it to actually win consistently, no matter what arena you're in, you need to watch this video next. I'll walk you through the best tips for every single arena. I'll see you there.